As the Walt Disney Company stock price goes below $95, the Walt Disney Company is shoring up its defenses to try to make sure that Nelson Peltz doesn't get on the board. Let's talk about their recent moves and the dip in the stock price here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is my co-financial analyst who is never giving any financial advice on this channel, Mr. VashSky. Vash, what do you not advise people to do?
Well, I advise not people to, wait, I think I screwed that up there. I will say, I advise people maybe to change their name, because I changed my name to not offering any financial advice whatsoever on this channel. So there you go. Fair enough.
But let's get into this. This is the Walt Disney Company. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but their current stock price is $94.13. Right here is the 5-day for this company right here. By the way, if you look at the 1 day, it's not fantastic. 94. By the way, this is after hours trading. Went below $94 for a good portion of the day. We're recording this on Monday, July 22nd. Obviously, you're probably watching this on July 23rd if you have notifications on for this channel. This right here is a pretty big dip from where this company was, say, 3 months ago, right here, at $116.47. And if we go year to date, there was a little bit of a battle here. Also, in news that affects this company, by the way, if we're looking at the 3-year, it used to be all the way up here at $185. So being at roughly half of that at the current rate, the Disney stock price is not doing so hot. Vash, why do you think that Disney stinks so much at keeping that stock price up?
Well, because they don't necessarily have the content that investors want to necessarily invest into. And see, when that stock price was that high, remember, part of the COVID time, streamers were the hot new thing, and it didn't matter as long as you had a bajillion subscribers and nobody cared. And now, well, the reality set in for a lot of people and said, you know what? I don't know if just having a streamer with content that nobody wants to watch is necessarily enough for me to invest my money. And so you saw people dip out a little bit there, and well, Bob Iger has really failed to really usher in a reason why investors should jump back on the Disney ship.
Yep. Now, if we go over here to Yahoo Finance, they add a couple of interesting bits of information here. The stock ended at 1.7 down. That is for the entire day. That's actually one of the higher numbers that it was for the entire day. Obviously, starting up here a little bit higher, closer to 95, ended at 94.13. The S&P overall ended up 1 entire percentage point there. One thing that I'm noticing about the related articles here, investors rotate out of tech just ahead of big tech earnings. This is, I think, a vestigial arm here from Bob Iger trying to reclassify the Walt Disney Company as a technology company. Mostly at this point, if we just talk about revenue, they are a theme park company. And over the last few years, there's been a strange cycle for the company. This is a 5-year view right here. This is 2019. Obviously, this is 2020 and everything that happened there. And I think most of the stock market did that in 2020, getting all the way this high as Disney was talking about Hulu and streaming and Disney Plus and all the things that we're going to do with Disney Plus. And everybody thought that the only way was up for all of these streaming services as Netflix was getting greater and greater numbers. The Walt Disney Company was becoming, for lack of a better term, a technology company. But they weren't really a technology company. They were just taking one aspect and creating a new delivery service. That delivery service costing them $30 billion. So much money. It's more than $30 billion. So the thing that happened in all of this is Nelson Peltz showed up, I want to say maybe around this part, July of 2022, and started trying to court Bob Chapek here to say, hey, I think I can help you a little bit, try to help keep you on the board. Ike Perlmutter also chimed in and said, yes, you should get Nelson Peltz. You should give him a seat on the board. And let's see if we can reach about right here. Maybe it was about right here. Yeah. In this span right here is where Bob Chapek got kicked out as the CEO of the Walt Disney Company. And Nelson Peltz announced his proxy fight in earnest. And as you can see, the stock price goes up and up and up. And then he announces he's out and goes down and down and down and down and down. And then right here, Nelson Peltz and Trian Fund Management announce again that they're going to do a proxy fight, and the stock price goes up and up and up. And Bob Iger insists this entire time that Nelson Peltz is not the reason that the stock price is going up, even though it virtually matches the previous curve. And the moment that it is revealed that Nelson Peltz is not going to get a board seat, it starts this downward trajectory that we see today. And despite the fact that the box office for Inside Out 2 is phenomenal, it might end up being the highest grossing animated film of all time. And Deadpool looks to be breaking records this coming weekend here. Pre-sales notwithstanding, there's also the fact that it's probably going to shovel in buckets of money at the box office, despite the fact that it is a rated R film. The Disney company, at least from the entertainment side of it, that never made it much money anyways, doing pretty well. The theme park business making up 70% of the revenue of the company. Now, the reason that we say all of this, and I want to connect the dots for anyone who is not aware of the video that we did on this channel. Very recently, Oracle CEO Safra Catz departed Disney's board of directors after 6 years. With that departure, Disney's board has reduced from 12 directors to 11 directors. Vash, why would you get rid of a board seat when Safra Catz leaves the board?
Well, they want to necessarily close up that gap so that nobody can wedge it. I believe not only Nelson Peltz was looking to get a board seat or two, but there were also other firms that were looking to get on Disney's board as well. And with that being the most recent history of the Walt Disney Company, well, I guess they still fear somebody from the outside making their way onto Disney's, or I should say, Bob Iger's board.
That's a very good point. And now they have reduced board seats in the past. Obviously, when Susan Arnold left, they got rid of her seat and they made Mark Parker chairman. They don't make it a specific seat that is the chairman seat or something like that. They don't switch them around here. So I see this very much as the stock price goes down. Obviously, Nelson Peltz probably bought in around $80 a share the last time. He probably didn't buy a massive amount of shares one single day, but it might have been somewhere in that window between 95 and 80 that he decided to cash in. Not cash in, well, definitely not cash out. He decided to buy stock in order to get more strength as a owner of the Walt Disney Company, as a shareholder of the Walt Disney Company. Of course, bringing in Ike Perlmutter, who has something like 3 billion shares of the company. This move right here to get rid of this seat prevents shareholders from voting for Peltz to get into that seat. There is no one to compare him to, so they have to put someone in that seat, and they don't want that someone to be Nelson Peltz. I think the company is in big danger right now of a takeover. If it's not Nelson Peltz, then from someone else. That someone else, I don't think it's going to be Jason Aintabi, who has something like 100,000 shares, which he's probably gotten rid of now. I don't think it's going to be Mason Morfitt from Value Act, because he seems to be very quiet about his role with the company now that Nelson Peltz is gone. I think Nelson Peltz is still on Bob Iger's mind at this point. Do you think that's a fair statement, Vash?
Oh, absolutely. Well, he is on our minds, that's for sure. So obviously, Bob Iger has to have Nelson Peltz on his mind, I would think, because, well, a lot of what he's been doing ever since returning is dealing with these proxy battles. And so I would think that he is desperate to get this stock price up in some way in order to fend off another fight, because right now it is heading towards that proxy season territory, as we've dubbed it here in the back room of that Park Place. It's so cyclical, Jonas. You have to think that they are looking at this, and that's why they have reduced the available seats at the board of directors table there. It is fascinating because, like you said before, Bob Iger wants to think of the Walt Disney Company as a technology company, and you would think that there would be innovations in that space coming from the Walt Disney Company. I believe they're actually listed as a technology company with the financial firm that I do business with myself, which is I find completely hilarious. And yet they haven't really done anything on that level. The parks are suffering. And speaking of everything finance, the earnings call is coming up on August 7th, right in the midst of this strike period right here. You could have protesters outside the Walt Disney Studios in California, or even a couple days later there for the D23 Expo. Both of them bad showings and the perfect backdrop for a renewed proxy war from Nelson Peltz.
I think you're absolutely correct. What's interesting is Nelson Peltz took a trip to the Walt Disney World Resort in Florida. And I think he went to Magic Kingdom, and he also went to Disney's Hollywood Studios. One of the reasons we know it was Disney's Hollywood Studios is we saw him with the 3D glasses, which indicates it was Star Tours. But he talked about in one of his calls that he got a $16 balloon when he was there. And I think anyone who has been down Main Street can probably picture the guy with the massive number of balloons there. And that $16 balloon that he's talking about, I'm not sure that it's still $16, because we've gotten comments. It's funny that Nelson Peltz and the strike both use those balloons as kind of a little indication that things are not quite what they need to be with the Walt Disney Company, because the strikers are saying that balloon is worth more than you would make in an hour working for the Walt Disney Company. Now, I think that's probably fast food workers out in California make about $20 an hour as of April 1st of this year, April 3rd being when Nelson Peltz exited from this proxy battle. This is fascinating to me. I think that this is probably, I'm imagining that Nelson Peltz is watching as this whole thing goes down. He has made comments on CNBC to say, if this happens again, we will probably be back here this coming year and doing this again. I don't think he would officially say that it is definitely happening, to definitely engage in a proxy battle, because as far as SEC filings go, I think he would have to continue to do SEC filings all the way down as he made comments about this company if he was making moves in order to control the Walt Disney Company. Now, that being said, I wonder what is the price point at which Nelson Peltz would try to buy in. Vash, you have any comments you want to make before we wrap this thing up?
Yes, well, we know that he has more money than he initially had before because of when he got out. So that's even more buying power to buy in at the appropriate level if he so chooses to do so. You know, it's interesting, Jonas. I remember the big financial issue that Disney faced right before Michael Eisner was ushered in by their white knights, so to speak, the Saul Steinberg days, if you recall where I'm getting at, Jonas. It's interesting because I think Nelson Peltz said that he was good friends with Saul. It's just fascinating how it's the same company, many years apart, with people in kind of relatively the same circles, but obviously the realities and the circumstances are much different. So it's so interesting how history rhymes the way it does.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great way to put it. Now, I think Saul Steinberg had a different management philosophy when it comes to entering companies. Fascinating. There's a lot to contemplate there, but we want to do that in the comment section down below. Let us know your thoughts on this entire situation there. And like this video if you found it helpful in any way. And of course, consider subscribing to That Park Plays for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.